Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 1, Episode 6 of Apple TV's Foundation, entitled Death and the Maiden. Now, I know a lot of people have still been kind of like, harping on this show for the slow pace that it's moving at. And I acknowledge that this does have a very deliberate and slow pace, but I will also acknowledge that I, for one, am really enjoying the direction of this show. It doesn't divulge much at a time, but the bits that it divulges I find to be incredibly interesting. Like, I found the direction of all three story arcs that were explored in this episode to be heading in directions that I find incredibly interesting. I love like the political intrigue here. Again, it has the vibe of like early seasons Game of Thrones, which I've always told people that Game of Thrones kind of moved at a slow pace. This makes Game of Thrones look like a rabbit, but it's still really good, and I find it to be really interesting. And I love a lot of the things that are happening beneath the surface that you could tell are kind of like starting to come to fruition. It's like a very slow blooming flower, but I feel like it's going to be a rewarding flower once it blooms. And then just watching it, visually, watching these stories unfold, I found it to be incredibly interesting. So, but I do empathize and understand people who are feeling like this shit moves too slow. It's not that interesting. Like, I get that. I really do. This is one of the slower moving shows that I've probably ever seen. We're 6 episodes in, so I think it's a 10 episode season. So we're 60% of the way through the season, and I feel like not much has kind of come to light. So I get that, but I find the political stuff to be super interesting. I find the visuals to be incredible. I'm really interested in seeing where this is going. So I'm going to spend some time talking about each of the 3 story arcs that we visited this week, and just kind of wrap it up from there. So I want to start with the episode title, Death and the Maiden. I think that's referring to not a specific death, even though there are deaths in this episode. I don't believe the title be referring to a specific death, but I think of it as referring to how the people on the Maiden, which is where Brother Day went to go visit to kind of like, I don't even want to say exert his power, because I don't think he even went there planning on doing anything per se, but just having Empire presence there, I think it was meant to serve as a form of intimidation. But he goes to this, I think they said it was a moon actually, but it might be a planet called Maiden, and it's after the death of the Proxima Opal, who we learned about her death, I think, in episode 4. And we saw, I think this was also in episode 4, Brother Dusk starts to go there. Brother Day shows a lack of trust in him, benches him, and decides to go himself. So this storyline picks up in this episode because we didn't visit Empire at all in episode 5. So he goes there, and I think it's the death and the Maiden, I think, is meant to refer to how they perceive death on the Maiden, as opposed to how Empire sees it. And not even just Empire, but like the whole concept of having a soul and not having a soul. They talked about that in episode 4, and there's a great moment at the very end of the episode where actually, before I get to that, I want to set up the dynamic a little bit here. So he arrives, and there are 2 individuals vying to be the next Proxima, which I'm assuming means the ruler. Zephyr, I have them written down. Zephyr Halima and Zephyr Galat. Zephyr Galat is the one who Empire wants to stay in control. It will help them maintain their dictatorial relationship with the universe. And Zephyr Halima is the one who's more, I guess, I don't want to say religious based, but like, she's the one that's all about soul and reincarnation and whatnot. Brother Day goes there and does a very big intimidation move, and he tells them that, they have water, saltwater issues on this planet, and he says that as a show of good faith to the next Proxima, Zephyr, what he wants to be Zephyr Galat, he's gonna build a moon-wide, it is a moon because he called it moon-wide, desalinization system, so they can always have clean water. It is in essence a bribe. And like, these are kind of things that I like. This is why I like this show, because when I say I like the political machinations here, that's the kind of scene that doesn't jump off of the screen or anything, but like, that's a big power play. He essentially is trying to bribe the people of this planet to vote for Zephyr Halima so that they can get this desalinization system. But then what ends up happening is that during Proxima Opal's funeral, Zephyr Galat is giving like a dry ass fucking speech and shit, and then Zephyr Halima comes up and gets everybody turned up. She's like, oh, some like Barack Obama type shit, like change you can believe in kind of thing. So she gives this rousing speech about souls and reincarnation. And the cool thing here, and again, this is the stuff where I talk about stuff that's beneath the surface. Yeah, she gives a great speech that riles up the crowd about souls and reincarnation, and even gets Demerzel to bow down to her right in front of Brother Day, which had to have been really undermining, but she warned him of that before they got off the ship, and he made her come anyway. But also that speech, the entirety of that speech is also a dig at Brother Day without being an overt and direct dig at him. She does look at him directly at one portion of the speech, but I like how the speech has two meanings. It's meant to rile up the crowd and curry their favor, but it also is a very big, even bigger power move than what Day did by offering the desalinization system. That's her feeling brave enough to espouse her feelings on reincarnation and on the soul, which is an indictment of these clones of Emperor Cleon, and she does it right in front of him. Like, that's a ballsy move, and that's the kind of shit I like about this show, because there's a lot of things that aren't said on the surface like that, but you can glean that from the actions of the characters. So I thought everything that happened on the Maiden was super cool, super interesting. I like seeing Day be undermined like that in front of him, as intimidating of a specimen as he is. To have somebody like that be willing to undermine him right in front of him at this funeral and gain everyone's favor, including Demerzel. Like, I thought that was a huge scene, and I thought that helped really make this episode really, really interesting. Let me see if there's anything I had written down about this story arc that I also wanted to talk about. It was mainly revolving around the whole soul thing and wanting to explain the dynamic that was mentioned in episode 4 about what was going on this planet and why they were invested in it. Let's see. I talked about that. Yeah, no, I got everything here. So the next thing I want to talk about is what happened on Terminus. The Terminus thing is a fairly straightforward story. You know, we're seeing the Anacreons continue to finish off their successful, I guess, destruction of Terminus City. And Salvor Hardin is saved by a couple of kids. And eventually her and Hugo leave on Hugo's ship with Farah, the Grand Huntress, and several other people who were chosen to help, I guess, maybe not find, but fix what we find out is like a destroyer ship called the Invictus. And that's essentially the plan so far. I like how we learn more about the Anacreons' plan every week. So now we know they want to get this Invictus ship, which is a destroyer that could apparently destroy planets or some shit. But they need some of the people that were on Terminus and on the Empire ship to come help to fix this ship. Hugo does a cool thing by switching control of the ship over to Salvor Hardin verbally. And then that makes it so they can't kill Salvor because they need her to control the ship, and they can't kill Hugo because she needs him to be able to pilot the ship because she doesn't know how to fucking pilot a ship. So it was a really smart play by him, and they end up going on his ship along with the Anacreons to go find this Invictus ship. But more importantly, we learn a couple of important things during this story arc. One, we learned that Salvor is apparently not purposefully, but able somehow to essentially see through Gale's eyes, but then also see more, because we find out that we see the scene that precedes Raish killing Harry, and it's essentially Harry saying that Raish and Gale's relationship was a threat to the Foundation, so he has to kill Harry, and that's the only way he can get off of the ship. So, and he says, you know, once you kill me, don't go see her, don't go implicate her. This cryopod is for you. You get the fuck out of here. Now we know what actually happened. This was episode 2, I believe, is that Gale walks in and Raish completely changes up the plan. He sends her on the cryopod. He does incriminate her by putting the knife on there. And then we saw last week that he ends up supposedly dying. So I don't know. We don't know if this was part of Harry's plan. I highly doubt it. I feel like Harry's plan was to have Raish kill him, and then Raish escapes, and now he's gone, and the plan can continue. I think Gale was a wrench in all that, because the whole point was to avoid him and Gale being together in the first place, and he sacrificed his own life to make sure that didn't happen. So the fact that essentially he sacrificed his life, and then Ra's doesn't end up going along with the plan, and Gale ends up being directly involved and incriminated, which is exactly what Harry didn't want. I think, again, when I talk about the direction that these story arcs are moving, I find that to be really interesting. I'm really curious how Gale stumbling upon this is going to change everything. And Harry says he could predict things on a massive global scale, like what large amounts of population will do, but he can't predict what individuals are going to do. And how much of a wrench in this plan was Gale seeing this stabbing? Like, was this a big deal? And I feel like that's one of the things that we're going to find out. And I'm super excited to see what direction that's going as well, especially because now that we know Gale just saw some, again, we don't know what it is, but some digital version, hologram version of Harry on this ship. Now, what is it? I mean, I talked about it last week, but we still know that there's a whole lot more to be divulged. And we also know that she's going to Harry's home planet. So that's interesting too. And the other thing that we learned is, like I mentioned, the Anacreons plan on getting this ship, the Invictus. To what end, I don't know. But again, very interesting. I like how we learn a little bit more of their plan every week. And I like how now Salvor and Hugo, I don't really care about Hugo. I don't find Hugo interesting at all. I don't know about you guys. I fuck Hugo. But I like that Salvor is now getting off of the planet and is now the universe is expanding for her. Now the Terminus storyline has now expanded elsewhere. So I'm curious to see where that's going to go. And the last thing that I want to talk about is we had some pretty interesting events on Trantor as well. And again, it's what I'm saying about the stuff that's happening beneath the surface. A lot of cool shit happening on Trantor as well. So Brother Dawn, is continuing to be infatuated with the garden girl. Does she even have a name yet? I don't think so. But he continues to be fascinated by this garden girl. We know Brother Dusk is kind of suspicious of him already. He's been out of sync with their traditions and things like that. We also find out that Brother Dusk is the first ever colorblind emperor. So that's interesting. So like he's setting himself apart unintentionally from all that had preceded him and from the current Brother Day and Dusk. And I find that to be interesting as well. But then we also see Dusk takes him out hunting, and Brother Day is Dawn. Day and Dawn, I fuck those names up all the time. Brother Dawn is more naturally inclined to the hunting. Another aspect of him that makes him different. He kills 6 of whatever these bird things are, and apparently the record was 3 from Brother Dusk. So he doubled the record on his first ever time. And he says it's good luck. When he shoots his first one, he says it was luck, and Brother Dusk readily agrees, like, yeah, it was luck. I'll turn it into skill. So like he's very much not expecting, nor is Brother Dusk expecting him to be this good at the hunting. Once Brother Dusk finds out that the record is 3, he has his assistant or whatever hide the other 3. So then, he's like, oh, you killed 3 on your first day. You tied my record. We know that he actually killed more. But I feel like that was like a red flag for Brother Dusk. Like, okay, he killed my record on his first time. Like, maybe, again, another reason for him to be suspicious. Like, this guy's, he's different somehow. So he takes him to what I can only call like an outdoor whorehouse. I don't know. I don't want to call it a whorehouse. That's not a good term to use. But like, he takes him to get him laid. Put it that way. He takes him to get him laid. Brother Dusk chooses the girl who looks like the garden girl, and Brother Dusk tells him that she won't remember anything. They wipe their minds right after. So he's like, I could tell you anything, and you're not gonna remember. And she's like, yeah, that's not what I'm here for. And then the scene ends. So we don't know what Brother Dusk may or may not have told her. But later, we see the same guy, I think it's the same guy, that Brother Dusk sent to kind of like stalk and figure out who the garden girl is. We see him discover the 3 extra birds or whatever that Brother Dusk killed. That to me read as Brother Dusk set him up with this girl, telling him like, you could tell her anything, we're going to have her memory wiped, knowing full well that he will not have her memory wiped, and sending her with the plan, like, get information from this guy. So she's showering and he's asking, information, like, tell me everything he told you. So I'm assuming that she told him about having killed 6 of those animals, having hid 3, and then Brother Dusk sent that guy to go retrieve the other 3. I think that was the show's way of telling us that that Brother Dusk told her about the extra, the 6 kills, and then she then told Brother Dusk about it, and then Brother Dusk sent that guy to go pick him up. That's my interpretation of that scene. And I read a couple of reviews of the episode afterward, and I don't think anyone else caught on to that. But I think like that to me, and that's what I say I like about this show. And I say again for the 9 millionth time in this video about the stuff that's beneath the surface. Just in the one scene of that guy picking up those 3 extra kills told me, and I could be reading this wrong, but to me that read as Brother Dusk told Dawn. Brother Dawn told the girl told Brother Dusk, and Brother Dusk had that guy go retrieve them, and eventually we will have a confrontation between the two, and I find that to be really interesting. So really good stuff in this episode. I think I really enjoyed it. I found it really interesting. It's one of those things where like you got to be paying attention or you're gonna miss some shit, but I find the direction of each of those 3 storylines to be really intriguing. So I'm really looking forward to what these last 4 episodes are going to look like. So let me know what you think. Do you think I'm off with that interpretation of the Dawn-Dusk dynamic here? Am I off there? Are you interested in seeing what's going to happen on the Maiden? Are you interested in seeing what's going to happen with Salvor and Hugo and the Anacreons? I find all that shit to be interesting. So let me know what you think in the comments. I'll reply to as many as I can like usual. And I'll see you guys next week for episode 7. Peace.